Hey everyone, Dolphin Oracle back again, and I've just caught me starting VirtualBox up. I'm going to try installing the ISO we just made in the snapshot into a different virtual machine. Now, as you recall, when I started this Odyssey, I mentioned that the original net ISO does not install onto a UEFI machine. I have configured this antiX virtual machine I have here as a UEFI boot machine. So I'm going to insert the snapshot I just made. We're going to boot this sucker up, and you're going to see we're going to go into UEFI mode in VirtualBox, and it will install. And you see this the bootloader is different. You see there's no function menus, and we get this big bar across the bottom, and we get the antiX boot menus. This is the UEFI loader. So I'm just going to start this thing up. We should boot into the Mate desktop that we customized. And here we go. So remember, we're running the live USB at the moment, so the demo account is in action. Now, if you'd made a personal account, a personal snapshot, your user, the original user, is still available, but when you reset, it goes back to being demo. Okay, so as you recall, when I made my time travel appearance in the previous video, I mentioned there was a problem when installing. The grub files weren't there, and I had a workaround for preserving them. So you got to put them back real quick before you do the install, and you do this on the live CD or on the live media. Okay, if you're using a live USB with persistence for this, you can do it anytime. But if you're using a live if you're booting the ISO in VirtualBox like I am, you got to do it right before you install. So we're going to come down to, let's see, I forget where I'm going. Grub. You see the grub.d directory is gone. That's inconvenient. So I'm going to open up Etsy as a root administrator here. Whoops, I typed in the wrong password. Ha ha! Live CD. Root password's root. Okay. You'll notice that some drives mount over here. We'll get back to that. When you open up the root Kaha, it mounts everything. Kind of slightly annoying, actually, when you don't want it to annoy. So we gotta unmount this partition's actually where I'm going to install the drive. This SDA1 is actually the ESP boot partition for the UEFI. So not a big deal to unmount those, but you got to unmount them or the installation file. So I'm gonna inject those real quick. Okay, I think they're both ejected. Yes. All right. So let's get back to the file system here. Back into we've already opened as administrator. So Etsy, and we're gonna find our Fred directory that, if you recall, we made the files ahead of time. I'm going to copy those. And we'll make a new grub.d directory. Create folder, grub.d. And we'll paste those in with Control-V. And that's all it takes. Now the installation should go through. So let's go ahead and run the installer. Another slight hassle, probably because I'm running alpha code. The antiX installer didn't show up here on the desktop. What do you do? Because the CLI installer we use doesn't do MBR installation. It doesn't do UEFI installations. No problem. If you recall, if you look at the notes, we did install the antiX installer. So as root, we're going to run, whoops, I typed in the wrong password. Root is the password. We're going to write install. That's install. Okay? And we're going to let it do its thing. So next, let's see, custom install on existing partitions. Auto install doesn't work, even in VirtualBox on a UEFI. Maybe in the future, it's on the map, but it's not implemented yet. So custom install on existing partitions. We're going to pick the right one. I've only got one big enough. SDA2. Remember I said SDA1 was the ESP partition. If all this sounds like gobbledygook, you probably shouldn't be building your own distro. Or hop on the gravy train and learn what I just said. Seriously, the ESP partition is the EFI system partition. That's basically the boot partition for for UEFI machines. If you got a Windows system, you'll see it on there, and that you don't have to make a new one. The partition's there. Check out my videos. I've done a couple videos on partitioning in VirtualBox. Okay, so anyway, we're going to hit next to install this turkey, and I'm going to pause. I'll be back when it gets to the grub bootloader. Okay, it's been a fairly uneventful file copy. We're going to install the grub bootloader. You can see it's already selected the ESP. It's what we want. Hit yes. That option should only be selected, or pre-selected I should say, when the system knows it's booted from UEFI. If you boot it on a UEFI machine and it isn't selected there, something's wrong. And that means you probably need to go back and disable some compatibility modes. Okay, it works. I haven't had a failure yet in a pure UEFI environment. Where I've had failures installing grub in UEFI is when these friendly compatibility modules built into the UEFI BIOSes of a lot of systems. This laptop has one. I've got it disabled at the moment. VirtualBox doesn't have the compatibility mode, so you don't have to worry about it. Any rate, computer name Annex is fine for me. This is the stuff that that console thing. If you don't install it, it's not there. So console data. So everything's there. So any other services that you might install will show up here. Like I say, I don't have many installed. There's SSH I didn't install. There's all sorts of things. It's your distro. Install what you want. There is some enhanced cups options in the meta package installer that we did install. So you can check. That might be a starting point for some of you if you want to get printing working. Okay, keyboard, blah 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 blah. Time zone's okay, and regular username stuff. Now, if you installed LightDM like we did in my video series, this auto login button's not going to work. Why? Because unlike MX, antiX by default uses the Slim display manager on the regular ISOs, and this is the antiX installer, not the MX installer. So the auto login looks for a different tool. So I'm going to skip the auto login. You can edit the lightdm.conf file manually to enable it if you want. You can also install the lightdm-GTK-greeter settings editor tool from Synaptic. Okay, you want to reboot? Yes. We're going to reboot, and this thing's going to zip around, inject the disk. Now remember, UEFI machine. Oh, it's a bootloader. This is a good sign. Spin back around, and we should be in our user account on our Mate desktop. You can ignore a lot of the gobbledygook here. A lot of things look different in VirtualBox than they do on real hardware when you're doing this. And up we come. There we go. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the Lego method of building your own distro. Again, some of the things that happened with ISO snapshot are likely because of the fact that antiX 17 is alpha code. So your mileage may vary when figuring out if it's going to be right for you. You can always wait for antiX full. You can always use the stable versions that we already have, or wait for antiX 17 to go final, which should be sometime shortly after Stretch goes final, I would think. But I'm not in control of the timeline. I'm just a happy troubadour, video troubadour, giving you the info. For tips, tricks, how-tos, head over to antics.mepis.org or throw up a post at antics.freeforms.org. This is an exhausted Dolphin Oracle signing off. Have a great day.